Hi everyone, how's it going? Today, we have a chilling story for you. That's right. We're diving into the mysterious and brutal case of the Black Dahlia. Get ready to explore one of the most infamous unsolved murders in history. Let's begin.
Have you ever heard of Black Dahlia? If you have, most of you might know it as a death metal band from Michigan, America, called the Black Dahlia Murder. The Black Dahlia Murder is an unsolved murder case from 1947. The victim, Elizabeth Short, was found dead with her body mutilated in Los Angeles. This case received significant attention from the public and media due to its brutality and the lack of clear clues.
Here are some key facts about this case. Victim: Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia, was a young woman aspiring to be an actress. Location: her body was found in Leimert Park, Los Angeles. Body condition: her body was cut in half and showed signs of torture. Investigation: the police investigation was extensive but did not result in a suitable suspect. A large number of people were questioned, but none could be linked with sufficient evidence.
Several potential suspects have been suggested over the years, including George Hodel, a doctor who was accused by his own daughter of being the killer; Walter Bailey, a surgeon whose house was near the crime scene; Leslie Dillon, a mortician's assistant who had knowledge of how to mutilate a body. Why has this case remained unsolved? Lack of forensic evidence. Forensic technology at that time was not as advanced as it is now. Many potential pieces of evidence may have been lost or contaminated. Numerous suspects. A large number of people were investigated, making it difficult to focus on one suspect. Extensive publicity. The case received massive media attention, which may have contaminated the investigation and obscured important clues.
This case remains one of the most famous murder mysteries in American history. Despite many theories and speculations, the identity of the Black Dahlia's killer is still unknown and may never be discovered.
Hi everyone, we from I Felt the Dark want to invite you to join our mystery adventure.
Yes, let's subscribe now. With a subscription, you can get exciting stories every week.
Yes, let's subscribe now. With a subscription, you can get exciting stories every week.
Don't forget to like and share our content so more people can enjoy these mysteries too.
So come on, join us now and be part of our community at I Felt the Dark.
Absolutely. Ben, let's dive right in. So guys, don't forget to hit play button now. Let's begin. Elizabeth Short, known as Beth to her family, friends, and community, was the third of 5 siblings. She was raised by her mother, Phoebe, in Medford, Massachusetts, a suburb of Boston. Her parents were both workers, and her father faked his suicide only to reappear years later, showing he was not a responsible man. Elizabeth Short was a young woman, 22 years old, trying to build a career in Hollywood. At that age, many young women explore their sexual and material lives. However, Short was nicknamed the Black Dahlia and became famous as an actress only after her death. Yes, that's right. After her horrific death, she was dubbed Black Dahlia by the press, following the popularity of the 1946 film Noir in the United States. Her murder continues to impact modern Hollywood, with many young actresses being deliberately killed. We don't know the purpose of these killings.
Short had a fondness for wearing black clothes. Additionally, the nickname also referred to the crime film The Blue Dahlia, which was released that same year and was very popular before her death. Beth also enjoyed placing dahlia flowers in her hair as accessories to enhance her appearance and make herself look more attractive. This horrifying case began at 10 a.m. on January 15th, 1947, when a local woman, Betty Bersinger, and her 3-year-old daughter, Anne, were walking in Leimert Park, South Los Angeles, on their way to a shoe store where she worked. Betty saw what she thought was a mannequin on the grassy shoulder of the sidewalk. When she looked closer, she was shocked to realize it was a woman's body lying on the side of the road. When found, Beth's body was cut into 2 parts, upper and lower, resembling a mannequin separated at the waist. Upon closer inspection, Betty was certain it was a human. Beth's face was horribly mutilated with large cuts resembling a Joker's grin. Shocked, Betty ran to the nearest house to call the police for help. The police, FBI, and reporters soon crowded the scene where Beth's body was found and the LAPD labeled it as one of the most brutal murders ever at that time.
The naked body, discovered by Bersinger, was in a horrific condition. Besides being completely cut in half at the waist, her intestines were found tucked under her buttocks. Beth's mouth had been slashed from ear to ear, giving her face a gruesome, semi-smiling appearance known as the Glasgow smile. Her body had also been cleaned before being left to be found. Despite the severe mutilation, there was no blood at the scene, leading the police to conclude that the young woman had been killed elsewhere, drained of blood, and cleaned before the killer disposed of her body.
The victim had a semi-smiling appearance known as the Glasgow smile. It's haunting.
Hearing that gives me chills. Seeing the photo is even worse. And I know it's so brutal, it's really stressing me out.
Yeah, it's unsettling. I need a moment.
To identify the body, the Los Angeles Police Department took fingerprints from the corpse, which were then sent to the FBI using a device called sound photo, a precursor to the fax machine. About an hour later, the FBI had information and quickly identified the victim as 22-year-old Elizabeth Short. Beth's fingerprints had been recorded and entered into the system twice before. First when she applied for a job at a U.S. Army base secretariat, and the second time when she was arrested in Santa Barbara, California on September 23, 1943, for underage drinking with Army soldiers at a bar.
The autopsy results showed extreme violence. Rope marks were found on her wrists and ankles. Additionally, bruises were found on Short's head, indicating blunt force trauma before she died. Investigators stated that the body was cut very precisely, in line with human anatomy. This led the police to suspect that the perpetrator might have had a medical or surgical background. A few days later, exactly 9 days after her body was found, a letter was received by the local police station. This letter was not handwritten, but composed of letters cut from newspapers, later referred to as a ransom note. The killer taunted investigators by sending the victim's personal belongings. The killer knew that the investigators were corrupt, easily fooled, and incompetent. Inside the envelope were many of Short's personal items. The sender even claimed that these items had been in Short's purse. All the items in the envelope smelled of gasoline, as if the sender had wiped them clean to remove fingerprints.
The police and FBI tried various methods to obtain new evidence in this dark case. However, their efforts seemed to yield no results. Around 200 people were interrogated, and most of them also took lie detector tests. The results were negative. Various speculations emerged regarding the murder. One theory was that Short was killed because she refused to have sex due to being pregnant. However, this theory was disproven by the autopsy results, which showed that Short was not pregnant and had never been pregnant. In 2017, after several decades, new speculations emerged based on legal documents in Los Angeles. Pugh Marie Eatwell, a writer in her book Black Dahlia, Red Rose, wrote something that surprised many people. Many even believed its truth. Eatwell stated that the murderer was named Leslie Dwayne Dillon, a bellboy who had been previously arrested by the police, but later released. When Pugh Eatwell presented her theory about who killed the Black Dahlia several decades after her horrific death, there was one person who agreed with her, the son of a police officer who handled the case. Eatwell wrote that the Los Angeles Police Department deliberately let Short's killer escape because Sergeant Finis Brown, one of the two main investigators of the case, was a police officer suspected of corruption. This officer was suspected of having connections with Mark Hansen, a nightclub owner and local movie theater owner who was suspected of being involved in the murder.
This theory was obtained by Eatwell from Buzz Williams, a retired Long Beach police officer. He told Eatwell that his father, Richard F. Williams, once joined the team tasked with investigating the case. He even referred to this police team as the LAPD's gangster squad. Not only that, Buzz said that these officers had connections with the suspect, Leslie Dillon. However, to prove all this, Eatwell said that it would be impossible. It would be very, very difficult to verify documents because the Los Angeles police will never open this murder file, Eatwell said, as quoted by Rolling Stone. Nevertheless, Eatwell believes that Short was killed at the Astor Motel, where Dillon was reported to have lived. At the same time, Henry and Clora Hoffman, the motel owners, reported the discovery of one of their cabins covered in blood and dirt on January 15, 1947. At that time, a witness said they saw a dark-haired woman resembling Short and a man resembling Mark Hansen.
This case was closed because Mark Hansen had connections with corrupt Los Angeles police officers, said Eatwell. However, Eatwell also faced a lot of rejection of the theory from various parties. The unfortunate Black Dahlia, who experienced the pain of torture and murder, was finally laid to rest in Oakland. Her mother, Phoebe, took the initiative to move her residence near her daughter Elizabeth Short's grave due to her immense emotional attachment and enduring grief. Short's murder is noted as one of the most brutal murder cases in American history. Time magazine even labeled it as the most famous unsolved case in the world. And to this day, after more than 70 years, the case remains open. In 2017, Eatwell released a book titled Black Dahlia, Red Rose, which attempted to explain Short's brutal case based on legal documents, rare letters, and jury testimonies. An English lawyer even tracked down some of the last living individuals who witnessed the events at that time. Back then, the LAPD had at least 21 suspects who needed further investigation. One of them was Robert Manley. It seems that investigators made some progress in Short's case when they arrested a married salesman named Robert Manley, who met Short in San Diego and went on a date with her in the city for a few days, dropping Elizabeth off at the Biltmore Hotel in LA at 6:30 p.m. on January 9th, as per her request, the last day they were seen together. They were reported to have been dating a month before Elizabeth was found dead. Manley then identified one of the victim's shoes and a wallet found near the crime scene. However, his alibi was checked, and he was released due to lack of evidence to establish him as the sole suspect.
Leslie Dillon was a former bellhop and mortician's assistant who became a suspect in the infamous Black Dahlia murder case. Dillon was believed to have knowledge of unpublished details about the case. There is a theory stating that he, along with Jeff Connors, killed Elizabeth Short at the behest of a nightclub owner named Mark Hansen. Dillon had connections with the LAPD's Gangster Squad, a specialized unit focused on organized crime in Los Angeles. Some believe that his involvement in the criminal underworld was influenced by his family's connections with gangsters. Despite being the prime suspect, Dillon was never charged with the murder. This case remains unsolved with various theories and suspects emerging over the decades.
George Hodel was a Los Angeles-based doctor and one of the prime suspects in the Black Dahlia murder case, the name given to Elizabeth Short after her death in 1947. George Hodel was known for his involvement in the surrealist art world and his hedonistic lifestyle, as well as his skills as a surgeon, which made him a suspect in this case. George Hodel was a Los Angeles-based doctor and one of the prime suspects in the Black Dahlia murder case, the name given to Elizabeth Short after her death in 1947. George Hodel was known for his involvement in the surrealist art world and his hedonistic lifestyle, as well as his skills as a surgeon, which made him a suspect in this case. The direct connection between George Hodel and Elizabeth Short was never definitively proven. However, some indirect evidence suggests Hodel's involvement. Photo in album, George Hodel's son, Steve Hodel, found a photo of a woman resembling Elizabeth Short among his father's belongings after his death. Witnesses. Some witnesses claim to have seen Hodel and Short together before the murder occurred, although these claims were never officially verified.
After George Hodel's death in 1999, his son, Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective, began his own private investigation into his father. He uncovered various pieces of evidence that he believes indicate his father was not only the Black Dahlia killer, but also potentially involved in several other murders. Steve Hodel has written several books about his investigation, including Black Dahlia Avenger: The True Story. Although the evidence collected by Steve Hodel has garnered public attention and support from some quarters, George Hodel was never formally charged with the murder of Elizabeth Short, and the case remains one of the greatest mysteries in American criminal history.
Dr. Walter Alonzo Bailey was a surgeon in Los Angeles who became one of the suspects in the Black Dahlia murder case after his death. Bailey lived just 1 block from where Elizabeth Short's body was found. His connection to the case was further strengthened by the fact that his daughter was friends with Elizabeth Short's sister, Virginia. Bailey, who was 67 years old at the time of the murder, suffered from degenerative brain disease, which some believed could trigger violent behavior. He had no history of violence or criminal activity, and there was no evidence that he ever met Short.
Bailey's name surfaced as a suspect in 1997 by Larry Harnish, a reporter for the Los Angeles Times, who argued that Bailey's medical knowledge and proximity to the crime scene made him a plausible suspect. Despite these suspicions, there was no strong evidence linking Bailey to the murder, and he was never formally charged. The LAPD had many suspects over the years, and the case remains unsolved to this day.